Welcome back. You tuned into Inspired Afternoons with me, your host Maria Mia, and now we're moving on from advocating for educational rights. Now we're moving on to advocating for our health, our right to health. So, Section 21, we have the most progressive, all encompassing, holistic constitution in the world, a constitutional to be proud of. Yes, in the days prior to apartheid, in the days during apartheid, we had activists who gave their lives, who sacrificed their families. Uh, Parents lost children to freedom fighters. Children became orphans. Children didn't see parents who were jailed. They were fighters, freedom fighters. And now we have a new brand of freedom fighters. I call them defenders of our constitution, active defenders. So they know, yes, they're no more fighters. They've become defenders. They are defending, they're taking the constitution and they're ensuring that they defend it. Uh, just like apartheid was legal. So there are many laws and many institutions that hide under being legal. But what is legal is not what is just. And I'm so proud because today I have four brave uh, defenders of our constitution. So just to remind everybody, what is this halabula? What I'm saying is, let's just familiarize ourselves of Section 27 of our constitution. And Section 27 of our Constitution says everyone has the right to have access to healthcare services, including reproductive health, sufficient food and water, social security, including if they're unable to support themselves and their dependents, appropriate social assistance. Yes, that is why I said I'm so proud to be South African and I'm so proud to have this constitution. So now joining me in line before I even introduce the campaign, the People's Medicine campaign has just been launched by SAHARI. But let me introduce my defenders of our constitution. So first up, I have a dear colleague and somebody at a very young age making waves. Yes, when it was gender-based violence, before even the topic gender-based violence became out there or fashionable just to speak and people jumping, so to speak, on the bandwagon, politicians alike, somebody who genuinely stood up all those years is my beloved sister Shabnam Palesa Muhammad, who is an activist, who is a lawyer, she's a journalist, she's a presenter, and she's one of our own presenter here on Salam Media. So, Assalamu alaikum, peace and blessings to you, Shabnam, and welcome to Inspired Afternoons.
Wa alaikum assalam, my dear beloved sister Mariam Mia, and shukran very much for the opportunity to you, to your show, to Salam Media. And may I say, what a relief it is to see you back on the airwaves. We are so grateful for your health and recovery.
I'm getting there. I'm not just so energized, but I think today's topic just brought out that inner energy. So I thank you and I thank everybody here. So next up, I'd like to introduce Saskia Langelfeldt. So Saskia lives in Pretoria East, not far from us, just down the road. I'm in Greenside. She has a beautiful family whom she loves dearly, and I think that's the reason why she's taking this fight to ensure that her family's constitutional rights that enshrined remains protected. She's a junior project manager. She's a butt of a detective, enjoys a crime series in her spare time, and she has a love for people and strives to be someone who's always there for anyone who needs help, support, or just a shoulder to cry on, a true humanitarian. And then we're going to wait for Verushka to join us. But then I have Menzi Maseko. He's a Black consciousness and environmental and cultural activist. My man speaks my language. Environmental feature segments are close to my heart as well. And he's a member of Ikahambe Healing, Natural Healing, as well as SAHARI. He works as a communication specialist, freelance translator, events coordinator, and his full-time job is an all-day advocate for human rights, justice in the indigenous knowledge systems, and the healthcare sectors. So welcome, Menzi.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure. And I don't know where Saskia went to. Maybe she's logging in. But while we're waiting for Verushka to join us, as well as Saskia to rejoin us, I'm going to read out the SAHARI statement. So it's the launch yesterday, the launch of the People's Medicine Campaign, February 2021 was launched. So I'm just going to read the press release. Rapidly growing to the largest ivermectin advocacy group globally at 70,000 members, Sahari will, from Monday, 15 February, embark on an ivermectin awareness drive called hashtag the People Medicine Campaign. The aim of this on the ground right with our coalition allies, said founder spokesperson Shabnam Palesa Mohammed, is to raise mass awareness in our nation, especially with people who are deliberately misinformed by those with other agendas about the efficacy and safety of the cheap and Nobel winning prize medicine that is the center of a global advocacy campaign. Ivermectin not only prevents and treats COVID-19, but also clears river blindness and has an impact on cancer and HIV. So that is the reason behind the whole campaign. So I'm going to, Shabnam, you can just tell us why the need for this campaign.
Shukran, Sister Mariam. So I was researching, like many people, every aspect of COVID-19 and potential treatments and options there are there as preventatives and as cures. What can we do? In South Africa, we have the debate and the conversation going on about Umhlonyane or Lingana, etc., which my colleague would speak to as well. And so I thought there's got to be something else that's out there. And exploring these alternative platforms, because you won't necessarily find everything you're looking for on Google, etc., given the censorship. I discovered ivermectin, and I started doing a lot of research into it in the last a couple of months of last year, and discovered that in March last year, there were researchers in Australia that were experimenting with different medications that might help with COVID-19. And one of those forerunners and trailblazers was certainly ivermectin, which is, of course, a 40-year-old drug, Nobel Prize winning, as you said, very cheap to manufacture, a high safety profile. It's been 3.7 billion doses administered for river blindness alone. And so the research was profound in showing the impact of reducing coronavirus in vitro, that is, in the petri dish, over 48 hours. It was absolutely magnificent. So I started to research about ivermectin, what the different doctors and professionals were saying around the world. And there was a lot that was surfacing through on alternative platforms like BitChute, etc. And one of those people who really got my attention was Dr. Pierre Corey from the FLCCC Alliance in America, as well as Dr. Paul Marek, who's a former South African doctor, who are really passionately advocating for ivermectin, saying this medicine works. Give us the opportunity to help people to save their lives because it works. There's no risk about it. There's no doubt about it. On the ground, it's working. And so then what we did was, I was very much inspired to then launch the South Africa Has a Right to Ivermectin Facebook group. And I didn't have any hesitancy about this because previously there were other drugs like hydrochloroquine, etc., which I didn't feel from an evidence-based perspective was as profound as ivermectin. So we launched this Facebook page on the 2nd of January, alhamdulillah, and it's just profoundly grown to about 71,000 members. It would be more if Facebook wasn't censoring us. Unfortunately, that's what's going on. So
Okay,
we've
just
had
interrupt.
major
I
issues
signed
with
the petition
restrictions and
today.
banning.
Just interrupt. So I've
Yes,
signed the petition. So you have one more, and I sent it
thank
to
you.
groups that are WhatsApp limit capacity as well. So hopefully they all will sign your petition as well. So I know at Salam Media, I first heard about ivermectin and its effectiveness through yourself, through our group chats. And at that time, I gauged ordinary GPs, anesthetists, and those that were on my COVID support groups. And it was almost as if medical doctors who, at, at cutting edge in research and that, and they were like all towing this line. No, 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 no. There isn't enough research. You must stay clear. Be careful of providing a platform to people that are pro ivermectin. And I've got the messages here because I was just after you said this, the journalist in me said, let me just canvass around some of the doctors. And in November, they were all telling me, you know what, this is conspiracy theory down that line there. But something in my gut said, you know what, after listening to a talk we had by Ibrahim Faudi, who is the Africa correspondent of Al Jazeera, who said, we're getting no information and we as journalists have no opportunity to research or even to verify what government gives us. So governments around the world come here and journalists have become dictators and just spewing out everything, the messes. But so if so many people were infected, is that correct? Where are those numbers coming from? Nobody can sort of go. And if you one that bucks the trend, you sort of now going off in a tangent and you're being irresponsible and you don't care. I just want to welcome Verushka and Saskia is back with us. So welcome to Salam Media and thank you for joining us here on Inspired Afternoons.
Thank you very much to you.
Thank you very much for hosting us.
It's a pleasure. Before I begin, can I just introduce Verushka because I haven't introduced you formally. So let me just introduce Verushka as well. I'm just going down to my notes here. And Verushka is a human rights activist, General Secretary of the Market Users Committee and Provincial Secretary of the South African Informal Traders Forum in KZN. Woman warrior that she is, committed to transformation, transparency and dignity for all. No turning back. You go, girl. You definitely, I want you as my defender on our side. So welcome, Verushka.
Thank you so much, Miriam. And it's good to have me. I'm glad to be here indeed. After all my connection problems. Yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure. So as I was saying, this time I trusted my gut. We spoke as Salam Media and we said, you know what, we need, if Shabnam is saying this, she's not just going to put this out. We know it's researched. And then a few, I call them very, very courageous doctors at the expense of them might losing their license to practice medicine started. I remember the first petition was only 50. Am I correct, Shabnam? The first petition was only 50 medical practitioners.
So our petition is separate from a letter that the doctors had written. So the letter may have started off at about 50, but the petition which you signed is just over 52,000 signatures.
That's great. So okay, so the other reason I got you on here is to acknowledge you, but also I spoke to Ponti just to make known is, this ivermectin holding back makes everybody who has COVID feels like a criminal because I just come back. I was diagnosed on a Saturday and with the advice in this healthcare practitioner asked me, do I have ivermectin or can I get hold of it? So by the time I had been diagnosed, in that 2 hours, I had 30 offers of people saying, we can give you. But I didn't want to take it just because I needed to know what dosage, how to take it, the duration of this. So anyway, I was contacted by a medical practitioner who told me, do you have access to it? And I said, yes. He said, okay, what is your weight? So I gave my weight. Afterwards, a bit of calculation was done. I was told how many grams I must take it at 1 and then 48 hours later. But the thing is, yes, it was illegal. I broke the law. But the thing is, at that stage, I was really, really ill. And there was something available that I could take that could save my life. I don't know if it, look, I'm here speaking to you. The fact that I'm speaking to you and with Almighty and everybody's prayers in there, I'm back on it. So I took the ivermectin, but the thing is, at the same time, I shouldn't be feeling like I've broken the law because I took something that could potentially have saved my life and got me here to this point speaking to you today. And the other thing that saddened me is when we first spoke, ivermectin cost 10 Rand a tablet, where I paid a premium of 50 rand per tablet. Okay, for somebody like me, I can afford 50 rand, no big deal, 100 rand for my health. But somebody who, I mean, doesn't have money for bread and milk, 50 rand is a lot of money. And it's now big business in the black market, and it shouldn't be so. So, Manzi, what do you feel about this in terms of where's the politics? Why is this an issue? Because it's safe. It's a Nobel winning drug. Why is there an issue? What is the agenda?
Firstly, I just feel so honored. I'm looking at the panel. I'm thinking, wow, I'm a thorn amongst the roses, as they like to say. So I was raised by women, so I guess that's why I'm the way I am. That's why I'm here also. So, what you just said everything. When you say law-abiding citizens are made to feel like criminals, this is basically the pivot of the story. This is the what you call the crutch of the story. We ordinary citizens and mostly a lot of poor people who can afford a life-saving medicine, they are made to be criminals just because the medicine is out there. When we started, I personally started to participate in SAHARI. I realized I asked Shabnam one question. I asked, it wasn't a question, it was a statement. I said, you know what? Now that we started speaking about ivermectin, a whole lot of people are going to start trafficking in it. And when I say trafficking in it, they're going to even try and make illegal. My sound is not so good.
You can go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I mentioned to her that a lot of people are going to try and sell it in the black market. They're going to try and create fake versions of it. A whole lot is going to happen. We are opening a can of worms, but at the same time, we are opening the conversation so that people can stand up for their rights. This whole campaign, our campaign, is all about affording people the right to good health. It's that simple. But when you have an illegitimate, I'm going to use this word, illegitimate government, it makes itself illegitimate by not following the people's, not listening to what the people want, but listening to what corporates want, listening to what pharmaceutical companies want. You see, we have evidence. I mean, we get letters on Facebook, we get letters personally, people telling us what ivermectin has done for them. They have evidence, even doctors. There's a friend of ours who's a doctor in Cape Town who was basically on a deathbed. She took it once and she said, I could breathe again after weeks of suffering. So basically, there are many stories just like that. But then you have people, it's not just government, I think. I think government is just being used, allowing itself to be used as a puppet by the puppet masters of the world. The ones who are basically making sure that their pharmaceutical companies, which they fund, whose profit goes to them, basically. They are the ones that are pushing, that are basically trying to obscure and obfuscate the story so that people don't even talk about ivermectin. Whether it's social media.
I just want to get, Menzi, can I just get Verushka? Yeah. So basically, Verushka, no problem. Is this again politics, money, and power? Capitalizing on COVID-19 has now become about money, about power, about monopoly and politics.
Yes, I must agree with what Comrade Menzi has put out here for us today. The truth is, while we have leaders who say lives matter, lives come first, our people, and their actions don't show that. When they are meeting with people that are affected, who comes on the top of their list? Is it the economy or is it the livelihoods? We have to think about it that way. And I think as human rights activists, as fighters for those things that really matter, life should come first. And this is where we need to correct it and say, you know what, while you are protecting your economy does not consist of big business. We are part of that economy and we need our voices heard. And and it's very evident, if you're sitting on the bottom end where we are at the grassroots level, you realize, you know what, we hardly ever consulted. Who cares about us, you know? If we don't raise our voices, which now has been deemed illegal, we can't gather, nobody listens, nobody cares. They don't want to see us in large groups now. We've been tight-lipped. We have to be so cautious of saying, you know what, stop. And the truth is, whilst we're not on the street, we're still together. Don't forget that. The bottom line here is that big companies cannot be stopped because of their money. But the people have the power to stop them. And this is the time, whilst we cannot get into the streets, we're going to use everything at our access to say, this is enough. This is nonsense. Make our lives matter. Make it be about the people, about lives. Politics and money should not rule the world. And in South Africa, we call this a democracy. We were so proud of this thing our parents fought for so bravely. Are we actually given the access to it? Are we still being denied what we were promised so many years ago? And, you know, whilst we're looking at this campaign, the ivermectin campaign, and so many questions are raised by those in political strongholds, you know, we have to also think now, they say to us, oh no, I have my doubts. I'm not so sure. But you call yourself a leader. Open yourself up to the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let us prove to you. Listen to people. People are doing it illegally. People are not going to keep on doing things that are not working for them. They're not going to share something that's not working for them. The capitalist agenda must stop. It must stop here and now. We're not going to take it.
So let me bring Saskia in here in terms. Menzi, can I just bring Saskia here into the conversation? So how do we now, from where to Saskia, how do we now change mindsets? How do we change agendas? People listen to this. How do we become true medical activists? You know, I never would thought from, I'm a education rights campaigner. I just spoke to the councillor here in Soweto. Do you, just for information's sake, it's 2021, they still in deep cloth schools, we still have blackboards. And I took off for the councillor to say that I can't believe that was where the education revolution, the heart of the educational revolution began. And you mean you could not go there and honor those schools, even just to put whiteboards in a school like this? They have no IT infrastructure. So you know what, in terms of medicine and that, Saskia, how do we become defenders and mobilize and also change perspectives? Because at the moment, Safra is making it sound that, you know what, it's safe. There was not enough trials on this medicine yet. We don't know what's happening. Look, I took it. I experienced no side effects. I didn't even have the diarrhea for that. I had the diarrhea previous. That was COVID related. But thereafter, I didn't feel any other side effects. Yes, I had COVID symptoms, but I did not have any side effects. So whoever's listening, in terms of you are being scared into the safety of the drug in terms of the side effect, I think the steroids had more side effects for my health-wise, that I was given in antibiotics than what ivermectin is. So Saskia, how do we go about changing the mindset and engaging the public and civilians to say this is your constitutional right in terms of Section 27?
Miriam, thank you very much for the question, and thanks for going easy on me. That's an easy one to answer. It's very simple. Education. The biggest problem that we are currently facing is that people are trusting what they are hearing and seeing in mainstream media, and that is not the whole truth. We have seen censorship beyond control, and that is what needs to stop. So if we can't go through social media, then we go around it. And that is what the People's Medicine campaign is all about. The campaign kicked off yesterday. People are printing flyers, they are handing it out at taxi ranks, they are taking it to their places of business, and they are telling people and teaching people about ivermectin. And the more people who start asking questions, the more people who start getting upset for being with this amazing drug being withheld from them, those are the people that are going to start standing up and joining someone and saying, but we've had enough. We've had enough of death. We've had enough of sorrow. We've had enough of pain, of lockdown, of lost period, of everything related to the COVID pandemic. We are now standing up. And we are saying that the knowledge, that seed of knowledge has been planted, and we want to go out and we want to find out more about this, and we are going to get into groups of like-minded people to educate us so that we know what our rights are and we know what our options are. And the more people that actually stand up, the more pressure we're going to put on our government to get this approved for.
Thank you for that, Shabnam. I'd like to now ask you a question. When I secured this debate, and then this morning I woke up to an article. So I know you scan the media, so I don't know if you've read the article or not, but you're familiar. But I'm just going to touch about it. I seen today in the Daily Maverick, it was ground up ivermectin and COVID-19, what we still don't know. And an article goes on to say at the moment there just isn't enough evidence to justify using the drug for treatment or prevention of the SARS-CoV-2. And then the article says size does count, and the COVID-19 pandemic has confirmed it. Thanks to networks of scientists across the world who are running big clinical trials, we can better decide which methods can be used. And two of these networks are Discovery and Solidarity, which I want you to expand upon. And they carry out randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trials in many cities and countries that tell us how effective various methods are for treating and potentially preventing COVID-19. And the recognitions, and then they speak about something that RCTs, that is a randomized controlled trial. I'm learning this medical jargon now, by the way, researcher, and I know you've become familiar. So it says randomized controlled trials, that's RCTs, are the gold standard by which we judge the benefits of a medicine. And then this long article, which is in today's Daily Medic, whoever wants to go and read, it says that, so basically, just to give a gist of it, it says that ivermectin doesn't meet the expectations of the gold standard of the randomized test. So can you please just put this article in perspective, and can you just elaborate on this Daily Maverick article with regard to this and the two movements that have said that ivermectin doesn't meet this gold standard?
So I would completely reject that article as fake news. I think it is designed specifically and engineered to continue brainwashing people with this narrative. At a macro level, governments are captured by corporates. That's a reality. Our governments are managing agents for the predatory elite. And so therefore, whoever they get funding from, that's the line they're going to sing, because political campaign funding has got to come from somewhere. And what's happened during COVID-19 is a number of organizations and media platforms have been co-opted into singing off the same script, which is only the vaccine. Any other treatment is to be rejected with contempt, or is to be delayed and dragged out enough until all of us are desperate to take only the vaccine, regardless of the fact that there are numerous doubts regarding efficacy, safety, duration. There's a complete debacle concerning the vaccines at the moment in our country and around the world. We've seen a number of deaths happen as well. But coming back to articles like these, it's not the only one. And I prefer to look at scientists like Dr. Paul Marek and Dr. Tess Lawrie, who are former South Africans, who say the research is unequivocal. What's going on is absolutely absurd. This is not a matter of politics and economics. This is a matter of healthcare and medicine science. I had Dr. Tess Lawrie on Sunday. She did a meta-analysis in which she continues to research, and she says the evidence is unequivocal. She's taken the trials from around the world and looked at them and said at least 8 out of 10 lives could be saved if ivermectin was used, both as prophylaxis for prevention, as well as for treatment, whether it's for mild illness or it's for severe illness. And on the ground, we're seeing it. What we're experiencing is medical apartheid also, where some people in ivory towers don't want to look at the research in countries that are not in the West. So they're not American, they're not European, then no one wants to look at that research and sort of look down their nose at these countries that are doing these clinical trials, that are doing observational studies, etc. And it's hugely problematic. But what's ironic is countries like Slovakia, a European country, have also decided to now roll out ivermectin. India rolled out ivermectin via its mobile kiosk, ivermectin, doxycycline, and zinc. And what did they see? A steep decline in the number of infections, hospital stays, and deaths. So the science actually speaks for itself. And even Dr. Andrew Hill from the WHO, which is a hugely problematic organization, might I just say at this point, and we can get into that discussion at some stage, hugely problematic, and because they're funded by pharmaceutical companies. But even he, doing his research and meta-analysis, which he said has a 1 in 5,000 chance of being wrong, that we need to get supplies of ivermectin now. So if all these people are saying the same thing, Dr. Nati Madlala came onto my show and he said we're having orphans all over again, like the HIV/AIDS debacle. He's prepared to go to jail, but he believes that this medicine should be rolled out. If it
So
has
now in this
83%.
article, Shabnam, just to come in here, in this article, it said for prevention against developing COVID-19, the committee found that only 2 of the RCTs out of the 171 publications could provide any analyzable information, and both were from Egypt. So, you know, for me, what's worrying, because as a layperson, I read this. This is Daily Maverick. This is not some unknown source, and this is now concerning because, like you say, fake news, you sort of see with different addresses and maybe shady things on the internet. But that's why I'm saying, when I woke up to this Daily Maverick article, and for me, Daily Maverick, I'm trying my mind to say, you know what, it's good journalism, it's good articles. I was actually surprised when I seen them carrying this, because on the weekend they analyzed all the drugs. If you've read the article, so they seen the Johnson & Johnson's drug, they seen the Sputnik of the Russian drug. So they were all 6 of them, I think, they had on, and they gave the stats regarding the drugs, in terms of being safe in the rollout and the studies and that. So the analysis of the vaccines was done, and then today they put this article. So I was like really confused, because this is Daily Maverick. So as you've said, it's fake news, but you know, this is not coming out from like some dodgy website. This is Daily Maverick. So how do you respond to that, Menzi?
Well, Daily Maverick, they have to pay the rent too, don't they? They also have to pay the rent. So it's exactly like what Shabnam has said. A lot of media houses, just like even governments, sometimes you'll see this tug of war between the media and government, as if there is a real contention, as if there is some kind of, they don't agree on something. It's all the same agenda to deceive and cause the confusion that you are feeling right now. That confusion that you are receiving from Daily Maverick. I mean, here in my house, I've stopped the buying of the City Press. I'm mentioning it just because every weekend you buy this paper, and you find when you critically analyze the stories that are in there, you can see that there's a particular agenda, there's a way of thinking that you are basically being programmed to have. You know, besides fake news, outside of fake news, there's a whole I will call it. I'm a black radical thinker, so I will just call it liberal. You know, I know liberalism is something good in some spaces, but for me as a revolutionary, it's something basically that says everything goes as long as it comes from authority, blah, 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 it's just free. There is no freedom until you take it. So I just want to touch on one thing that Saskia said about taking power, that people taking back, this guy is coming to present himself. People must take back their power. The authorities must hear from us. It must not be the other way around. So what we are doing with such campaigns, okay,
Okay, so let me take Verushka now. Let me just ask, I'd like to...
That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, so Verushka, I know you, with the People's Medicine Campaign, you feel very strongly about ensuring that ivermectin is available, especially for those that find themselves in difficult times in terms financially, and that because most of them won't have access. I find myself privileged. I had medical aid. I could afford out of hospital. I mean, those tests alone, just to see my blood levels, whether they're high, critical, normal, and that, those 7 cost me, and thus I got a discount. and at 2,200 rand, I got a quotation for 3,300 rand for 7 of this. We needed 2 of this, but I was fortunate I could pay it. But as Verushka knows on the ground, especially you represent informal traders, and flea markets have sort of closed down now due to the pandemic. Many informal traders have lost substantial income. They get by maybe doing for home industry and that is why you are campaigning this People's Medicine campaign. Tell us more about it in terms of what do you hope to achieve with the People's Medicine campaign.
Okay, Miriam, let's put things into perspective. While we are sitting here fighting for access to medication that is going to save lives, and while some of us at some stage are discussing vaccines, the ordinary person, the people that matter, the majority, are struggling to find a place to have their COVID test done. At this time, I sometimes find myself sitting on the phone searching to see where we can send people to have basic tests done. And what was most disheartening, and actually something that needs to be known, is that when we go for these free COVID tests, you don't know when you're going to get your results. I know of someone who had a COVID test done, and a week later, she's still waiting for her results. So when we look at this COVID, the disease, the virus, people can die in a space of 5 days or 3 days. The new variant in 2 days, I know my husband was very ill, and I think this is something I must share as well, like you did. My husband was very ill. I saw him deteriorate in 2 days to an extent where he couldn't sit up or basically walk. I also got the ivermectin, and I don't think it's illegal. It's just not registered. I'll refuse to say I did anything illegal. To me, my husband's life mattered. And just like every other person I come into contact with, their lives matter. As much as the government wants to call this drug illegal, they've just made it expensive, nothing else. It's accessible on the streets. It's accessible anywhere outside. I've got testimonies of countless of people that have used it. And the truth be told, it took 3 hours for him to stand on his feet again.
Wow.
3 hours with no side effects yet. And if there is a side effect, I will take full responsibility for it. Because you know why? I would have been a widow. I would have 2 children to put through university. I would have not had a job. I have an extended family. Yes. So the government's going to tell me, go join the queue where I'm going to get infected. I'm not interested. I will push this campaign as far as it takes. But the people on the ground, the real people that matter, I've been into shack settlements. Some of our shack settlements, they call it illegal settlements. They're cleaner than the streets we walk on. Yes. And that must be known. The shack settlements are clean. They have they have little gardens that they live off. Self-sustainable little communities. These people don't have access to decent health care. These people don't even know where to have their COVID test done. People are dying. The rollout of ivermectin would do wonders in saving the people that can't be heard. And that is our duty. We call ourselves human rights activists and people that advocate for everything that is right, everything that makes life matter. Our duty here is, and this is something we can't step away from. It is our duty to humanity to make sure that this drug, as much as they say it's unsafe, we must do what it takes to make it work for everyone. And I'm going to stop.
Saskia, I want to bring you in here. So tell me, SAHARI recently registered now you in MPC, Transformative Health Justice. So tell us why the need to register as an MPC.
Well, the need arose from, I think, the massive growth in SAHARI and just picking up on the people's need for an advocacy campaign out there to actually with what the people's requirements are for a health system that gives a critical access to all different types of health. And I think This new NPC is going to do wonderful things. SAHARI will just be the first of the campaigns that they run, but they have massive plans. And I actually want to refer you to Shabnam. She will be the best person to answer that question for you. She's got the vision for the NPC and she knows exactly where she's planning on taking it with the rest of the founders.
So Shabnam, tell us what are your 5 core objectives of the transformative health justice and why?
Thank you for that, Sister Mariam. I think I was expecting Comrade Menzi to speak to that one, but it's fine. We can. So at the outset, what we've got
I'll
is
leave
5
the vision
objectives.
for him. I'll leave the vision for him. You can tell us the core objectives.
Objectives, okay. So the 5 objectives is firstly, of course, the MPC, now Transformative Health Justice, has incorporated SAHARI as its first campaign. And the first objective, therefore, is to advocate for equitable access to the people's medicine, ivermectin, but also other traditional and natural medicines and practices like Lengana, etc. So that's our first objective. The second one is to organize for public representation and participation in all decisions affecting people, where the voice of the people must be heard if it affects our life, our well-being, and our dignity. The third is to challenge corruption in and harm caused by or through big pharma, related stakeholders, whether that's medical aids or hospitals that are standing against ivermectin right now, and their affiliates. We know that big pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson and Pfizer, which are the latest names on the block, have been sued for and paid out billions for fraud, corruption, and causing harm to people. And these are the same companies that no one wants to talk about in terms of their fraud and corruption. How can we give them our money for products when they're fraudulent and corrupt? The fourth objective is to raise awareness about censorship in the media and in social media, about manipulation and censorship, especially when it comes to healthcare issues. We're seeing it on search engines, we're seeing it on social media, and certainly it needs to be addressed because it's an attempt to stifle democracy and freedom. And the final objective for now of our 5 is to advocate for the health minister to be appointed outside of the General Assembly of Parliament and by the public. So the Constitution allows for 2 ministers outside of General Assembly. We're going one further beyond that and saying, yes, outside of the GA, but by the public, not by the president. The health minister must be decided by the people.
Okay, and then let's say, Comrade Menzi, now, what is the vision and what will it take to reach that vision in terms of where you want to go and also to realize the core objectives that Shabnam just spoke about? Can you hear me, Comrade Menzi? Comrade Menzi, can you hear me? I think we have Comrade Menzi, can you hear me?
You know, it's somehow the sound is not very good right now. I don't mind if any of my colleagues can answer that question. I don't mind, please.
Okay, Shabnam,
let's something about the vision, okay. But I can't hear.
Can you hear me now? Can I repeat the question? I can hear you clearly. Yeah. So let me just repeat the question. I'm saying, what is the vision for your transformative health justice MPC, and what will it take to build it to that point?
Yeah, well, the first thing, I'll answer the last question before the first one. You know, what will it take is basically freedom of speech, freedom of access, freedom to be heard, and to make sure that not just our governments, but various sectors of society, civil society, can have a debate. We need to find a way to have transformative debates. I can't speak right now. There's a little bit of chaos going on in my house. Excuse me.
Okay, let me move over. Let me move over to Shabnam.
Yeah, I was going to
Shabnam,
answer the question fully, but I can't right now.
Okay, that is life. Let's move on. Shabnam, you can just round up that first.
So the vision is basically to have a healthcare system that is not based on apartheid. We want an equitable healthcare system that is safe and is accessible to every citizen or resident in our country, not just citizens, because we are all African. And that's the vision. And we want to root out the monopoly and control of these big pharmaceutical companies and their friends, in whether they're in politics or medical aids or in the media for that matter, who are co-opted into their agenda, to expose their agenda and to make sure that our people are freed from the shackles of this monopoly. For example, Aspen, which is a local company, was caught selling cancer drugs for over hundreds of % more than it actually should have been. And yet there's barely enough stir about it in the mainstream media. Why is that? They're connected to Johnson & Johnson. Who is Johnson & Johnson connected to? McKinsey. McKinsey was consulting with Johnson & Johnson on how to commit fraud and corruption. McKinsey was found committing fraud against us here in South Africa in terms of state capture. What do we see at SAPRA? SAPRA's leadership has people who formerly worked at McKinsey. So when we say the healthcare system is captured, we mean it. SAPRA has people who are directly responsible for blocking the rollout of ARVs, which led to the death of about 600,000 people in our country. So these are the people who have captured our healthcare system. Our healthcare minister or health minister, while he may be an honorable person in other respects, openly admitted the Gates Foundation funds the healthcare department and SAPRA and most of government as well. So clearly our government is captured. All of these authorities making decisions are captured. So we have a serious problem. And as the Transformative Health Justice NPC, we're here to transform the health justice system into a safe and equitable system that works for the people, that listens to the people, and we're here to remove the clutches of monopoly capital on our healthcare system. What's it going to take is for us to be brave and courageous. It's going to take the people standing together. It's going to take people supporting us. SAHARI as a campaign is 40 days old. The Transformative Health Justice NPC is newer. We've recently launched it, but it's going to take the support of the people. We don't want to have to rely on monopoly capital or on these corporates to support us in achieving these agendas. Absolutely not. We're saying to the people,
well, you don't want to be compromised, right?
You see,
you don't want to be
absolutely.
Compromised because that's what happened.
No, we don't want conflict
when I was laying in my hospital bed, like your husband, Saturday I tested positive. Wednesday I developed pneumonia. So like in 4 days, normally if you have normal flu, pneumonia is like 3 weeks later. This was 4 days later. And I sat in the bed and I thought of SAPRA CEO, Boitumelo, and I thought in 30 years time, when we're going to be watching documentaries of the great ivermectin debate, how your children, your grandchildren will feel, your family members, how are your circle going to feel that you were on the wrong side of the medical justice of this COVID pandemic? And I was thinking, I said, I'd so like to just ask you that one question. How do you feel now? Surely as a CEO, this is your time to make your mark and take a stand and reform SAPRA. Reform SAPRA. You are the CEO. Have that courage. Like you say, it's going to take brave, courageous people. When I watch interviews with her, it's those same words. I'm sure you so know. Now you can anticipate her response when it comes to her saying there was not enough trials going, we don't have enough research, and the famous one, it's not registered in South Africa. So Saskia, Verushka, you all slide, Palesa, Menzi, all, I've watched it. I can answer for her now because it's the same, like almost so, Boitumelo, you've become a vehicle for SAPRA, just not even the CEO, the spokesperson, so to speak, that is funny there. So please, I'd like to get you on the show, boy, make your stand. You've got lots of support here. Be courageous. Institute that change at SAPRA. Be the one that stands up and says, you know what? I've heard enough. I want to be that institution of change. I come from that background. It was thanks to the freedom fighters that fought for this, that gave me that opportunity to have this education, to actually be a female, non-white CEO in an organization like this. So why should I be a puppet? I was there because of the transformation laws, employment equity, affirmative action laws that got me there. So let me use whatever got me there. Let not be a vehicle and agent for Western powers.
You underestimate the power of corporates, Mariam. You underestimate the power of the Bill Gates and the people that capture.
But you know what? I believe in all of you. I don't underestimate. I believe in Shabnam. I believe in Menzi. I believe in Saskia. I believe in Verushka, and I believe in Mariam Mia that we are brave and courageous. And that is why I'm also taking issue with all the healthcare professionals who are secretly getting ivermectin in the hospitals. And I know it's happened. You've taken it. You snuck it in. You've asked your patients to swallow it when nobody was looking, and that's the reality of it. Uh, but yet I didn't see your name as the petition increased. I still don't see your names there. So why are you doing it underhand? You know it works. You're offering it to your patients. You are giving it to your patients. You are seeing the results. Document it and be brave and courageous. What are they going to script everybody off because you use ivermectin? Are they going to take every healthcare professional off like that? So I'm also appealing on behalf of you, if I can, in your organization, to healthcare workers, medical practitioners, put your voice to this. You know it works. Be part of the gold standard of trials to say, you know what, it worked, and I offered this to my patients, and it works. And if you want to strike me off for saving a life, then strike me off for saving a life. I will take you to the Constitutional Court because you have avenues of recourse.
Absolutely.
They can't just take you on here. So maybe I can be one of the members here now. I think I've been very, very vocal and just let everything off here. So I'm going to start with Saskia. I'm being Shabnam now. I'm giving you a minute to conclude. Verushka a minute, Menzi a minute, and Shabnam a minute. I'm being Shabnam now, giving everybody a concluding minute. We'll start with you.
Thank you. Yes, I think my concluding minute would include that what we need is a safe and equitable health justice system. We need all of us to raise our collective concerns with the current system, voice our wishes for the future, what we see it to be in the future. There are so many social and economic and cultural rights, and they're all important, but I just feel that, especially now during COVID, and the repurposing of ivermectin, that our right to health has been neglected. And not just our physical health, our mental health as well. Government and SAHARI has a legal obligation to provide us access to health-related services without discriminating. COVID did not discriminate. It takes who it wants, where it wants it. And we are now a group of people that have come together, and we are so diverse, and we are diverse because we are fighting the same enemy. And for, I think, the first time in history, we've got a situation where your age, your race, your gender, your political or your religious background means nothing. We are all standing together, and from there, the diversity, and only this group, this panel, and not even to mention the whole SAHARI group, the diversity comes from everyone standing together to fight one common enemy. And I just believe for us to reach our goal, government is going to have to work alongside the community members to create an environment that promotes health and well-being.
Thank you, Saskia. Sorry, time's catching up with me. Thank you, Saskia. Verushka, your now.
Thank you, Miriam. I think for me, in my 1 minute, I know I need 10, but 1 is fine. For me, I think what is very important, and my last statement would be this. While COVID impacts and affects everyone, it's not selective. A majority have access to proper health care? No, it's a minority. A very small minority have access to proper health care. And very few have access to health care that is affordable as well. Now, a vast majority in our country don't have access to health care. And when I say this, we do have public hospitals, but how do they get there? Do they have the funds to get there? A lot of people are overcoming this disease by just their immune systems, or they die. It's either you make it or break it. They can't even think about going to the doctors. No, it's the flu. We're going to treat it as the flu. The government has not looked into any other alternative. I know I come from a very large background or working group of how can I say, people who believe in alternate medication. Local South African people who, when we get sick, my husband was sick, they said, okay, let's go to the farm, we'll bring the herbs and come back, And I also know of a lot of people who have been ill, they've gone home, they've gotten well, and they've come back, which means there's more than just a vaccine that's going to work. And we also know that the vaccine is not a 100% thing. I'm not slamming the vaccine. What I'm saying is we need as much as it's going to take to combat this virus. And if the government is serious about providing a healthcare system that is going to impact at all on poor communities, they have to take into consideration all of what is available to them to fight this virus.
Thank you, Verushka. Menzi.
The sister has said everything that I wanted to say, especially about the traditional, not indigenous or holistic medicine. It is very important for authorities to recognize, traditional leaders are always complaining. Recognize us, talk to us, include us. A whole lot of people are coming to us, and we face the danger of those people who consult us. They can also infect us, but we are not. You pay basically lip service to our plight. So what Verushka just said is 100%. But I would also like to just highlight.
Yes, go ahead.
I haven't finished my minute.
Go ahead.
20 seconds. I really would just want to point to the website. This website of flccc.net. I think it's very important for people to go to it so that they can see the evidence for themselves. The flccc.net. And also follow our SAHARI campaign on the social media and spread the news. That's just it. Create critical mass, because united we stand and divided we're going to fall. They are trying to divide us. We're going to make sure that we're standing together so that we can actually defeat the COVID. Is actually a smaller virus compared to the virus of ignorance. Ignorance and willful murder. That's just the bigger virus.
I love that. I'm going to use that now. I hope there's no copyright in terms of COVID is a small virus compared to the virus of ignorance. But you'd be pleased to know, besides taking ivermectin, I took no antibiotics. What I did take was senna leaf, because I read somewhere that senna leaf is good for the gut and it's going to clear things. So I did take senna leaf, and also I was wondering, why are we not promoting natural things that is grown? He's given us part of Mother Earth, the Almighty has blessed us with. And I was fortunate enough to get hold of, somebody sent me the Madagascar leaf that was proven to be effective against COVID fever. So I've got the Madagascar leaf.
It exists in South Africa too.
Yes, so I took the Madagascar leaf as well. So please know that I believe in herbs, and I believe that our own food in our spices is healing, in what we eat is healing, the correct foods, and the Almighty has given us in many plants, in roots and shrubs, there is healing. So I'm proud that there's science and medicine is not the only way to treat your body. There are alternates, and I'm so pleased we're going to be advocating that. Shabnam, I'm giving you the last minute.
So the first I want to issue is a wake-up call to the political parties. We ran a poll on the SAHARI movement group on Facebook that said, are you going to vote for any political party that does not campaign for ivermectin? The answer was a unanimous no. It's not going to happen. People are waking up to the failure and the betrayal of these political parties who are funded by pharmaceutical campaigns. That's the first thing. The second is to say that we are going to take legal action to make sure that ivermectin is available to the masses of our people at no cost. People can't afford to go to the doctor. We want it to be at our public hospitals. We want it at our community centers, our clinics, as well as our pharmacists, over-the-counter medication. If you don't have a comorbidity, you don't need to go to a doctor to access ivermectin. It is astonishingly safe, according to the NIH and the WHO. The third is to invite people to join our coalition. First of all, join SAHARI, the movement, but also support Transformative Health Justice, the NPC. Let's work together. We're not competing. We want to collaborate, join our coalition. And the final is to say a massive thank you to each and every SAHARI member and media, of course, for supporting us. Salam Media, of course, #1 on top of that list. So thank you so much for that to my comrades and colleagues who've joined us here today. And finally, to just remind everyone that the power of the people is stronger than people in power. Amandla.
And thank you so much for joining us. And I hope this was educational and informative, and you are inspired now to stand up and be a defender of our constitution and an activist for medical justice. Have your say, It's your body, and you should dictate what you can and what you can't take in a safe way. So thank you. And in the words of Comrade Menzi, Corona is a small virus. Ignorance is the killer. So please, let's get educated. Thank you for the privilege of your time, and I'd like to thank the guests for coming on and giving us of their time. Peace and blessings upon you, and you may always be under the mercy of the Almighty. Coming up after this is my colleague Humaira Mayat with her current affairs show. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. And yes, I've made it through 2 shows, and I am a COVID survivor, and I have taken ivermectin. So it was, as Verushka said, it's not illegal, it's just not registered. So I did take an unregistered drug, and along with all the other treatments, all the prayers, and everybody's warm wishes, I can say all praise to Almighty. I managed 2 shows today, post-COVID, post being infected. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.